Mrs. Epley, would you begin by telling us where you were born and in general about yourself?
I was born in High Point, North Carolina. And the reason I wasn't born here was because it was in 1918 during the flu epidemic. And my mother went to High Point where my grandmother lived to have her baby and get help in looking after it. So I was born in High Point on September the 25th, 1918. Now, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, though. So, anyway, she quarantined us, and she would not let my daddy in to see me for 9 days. I was 9 days old before he ever got to see me. So, I don't know if he was surprised or not, but he did.
So it was a major flu epidemic in 1918?
Yes, it was a worldwide flu epidemic, and millions of people died from the flu. And locally, we had a lot of people who died with the flu.
You grew up during the Great Depression. Are there memories that you have about this difficult time?
I was in the 5th and 6th grades when that happened. But I remember my parents talking about it, and I remember the news, listening to the radio, and how people committed suicide, jumping out of the windows and skyscrapers in New York because they'd lost all of their money in the stock market. And there were a lot of horror stories that came out of that. It affected me personally because we never were hungry or cold. But we left Marion just at the beginning of the Depression in 1928. We moved back to High Point and lived with my grandmother for a while. My daddy thought there were better job opportunities maybe there, and so we lived there for 5 years. Like I say, we lived with my grandmother, and Mama got a job working in a hosiery mill because there was a big hosiery industry there, as well as furniture. And my dad got work at a barber shop, and we were finally able to get a place of our own, moved from my grandmother's house. And I went to school there until the middle of my freshman year in high school. Then we moved back to Marion, and I completed my high school education at Marion High School, which was located where the recreation department is now.
Oh, okay.
On East Court Street. I remember when Herbert Hoover was the president during the Great Depression, and I remember how excited people were when President Roosevelt was elected because they were hoping for better times. Even after we moved back to Marion, things weren't so great. Like I say, we weren't ever hungry or cold, but we didn't have a lot of the things we needed. And some of the things people just wouldn't do without today at all that we didn't have, but we made do. There were 5 children in our family. Can I tell you a story about where we lived?
Yes.
We lived on the corner of State Street and Baldwin Avenue in a 5-room house. In that house were my parents, their 5 children, and a lady and her little girl who came to live with us, and my grandfather. So we were pretty crowded in 5 rooms. But anyway, we survived. And when I was 14, I took a job at Rosie's store. And when I worked in the summertime for a full week, I made $9. Can you believe that?
No,
Well,
that doesn't sound like a lot.
I made $9, and that way I bought most of my clothes and paid my school fees and bought my books. So I'm sort of proud of that, and I've worked ever since until I retired totally in 2007.
I understand that you were the president of the local Asheville Federal Bank and that you were involved in banking in McDowell County during the 1950s and 1960s. What was this like?
After I finished high school, my first job was with the Farmers Home Administration, and I worked there for 2.5 years. And then, in the meantime, I got married, and then I had a child, and I left that job and worked a year at the local telephone company, and that was very interesting too. We sat at a switchboard and answered people by saying number please, and then we took the cord and connected them with the number they were calling. So that was a good experience. The telephone company was located where the Red Cross office is now on Garden Street. You know where that is?
Yes.
Zeno Martin, who was the superintendent of the city schools, we had city and county schools then. He was superintendent of the city schools, and he retired the year I graduated from high school. So one morning I was in my backyard, we lived on Rutherford Road, and he drove up my driveway and asked me if I would go to work for him, because when he retired from the schools, he went to work with a local savings and loan association. I accepted the job and I went to work on May the 1st, 1940. I was part-time, just a part-time employee, but in 1943, when the war came along, he retired and he went to Raleigh to be the bursar of Meredith College. So it was during the war, and there weren't any men around to take the job, so I just was in the right place at the right time, and started my career there. And I had a lot of good help and advice from a wonderful group of people who served as the directors on my board, like Mr. W.L. Morris, who was president of Clinchville Manufacturing, Fleming Snipes, who had the Dodge and Plymouth dealership here, Bill Shiflett, who had the Ford dealership, and you've heard of him because Shiflett Field is named for him. Had an airplane. John Cross was on the board, and he went on to when we merged with Asheville Savings in 1981. He was on our board of directors and was put on the board of Asheville Savings, and he recently retired after 25 years as chairman of that board. So I had a lot of good help, and then our regulatory agencies and trade organization helped a lot in providing knowledge and what to do. And so it was a good career for me, and it just worked out well for me, and I think it worked out well for the association. We shared office space in the back of another bank, a little bank called Marion Industrial Bank, and they made installment loans on signatures and having people to endorse notes for them, that sort of thing. And they were short-term loans. And then in 1954, we moved out of that into a office down on West Henderson Street. Stayed there until we built the building that's on the corner up there at the time and temperature sign till 1961, and then I retired in 1988. I had a 48-and-a-half-year career. And there were some difficult times, but we were a good sound bank. In fact, we were about number 2 in the state, I think, not in assets, total assets. We never did get to be a big bank like a lot of them, but I didn't want to be the biggest bank. I wanted to be the best. There weren't many women who had positions with financial institutions those days, but of course now there are a lot of them. But I didn't have much difficulty in that because we gave good service, and we had all the business we could do, and we didn't deal in credit card businesses and make risky loans like we've heard about just recently.
Yes.
And I tried to make people feel comfortable and in helping them own a home.
Was it harder to get a loan back then than it is now?
I think it was easier to get a loan back then because we took a personal interest in people. We worked hard to help them. And we didn't have to go through the red tape, I call it red tape, that they do now, because it's getting hard to get a loan. So if we had somebody who wanted to get a loan, they had a problem, we tried to help them work it out. We went, I think, over and beyond the call of duty, because people then weren't a number, they were a person. We tried to help them.
Could you tell us in general about yourself?
I was next to the oldest child and 5 children in the family with my mother and daddy. My daddy worked as a barber part of the time that I remember growing up, and then he went to work at the Clinchville Manufacturing Company and retired from there. My mother worked in the hosiery mill, and then later on she retired from Clinchville. She drew patterns that you put on the looms to weave the cloth, and she was really efficient at that. And she lived to be 106 years old and drove your daddy's car to her 100th birthday party with a blue light Escort. Traffic was stopped on Main Street for her to get into the community building parking lot. That was a real fun time. Like I said, I had 4 brothers and sisters. I lost a brother in an automobile accident when he was 21. All my siblings are gone now. I'm the only one left. I was married to Ben Epley, who died in 1994, and I have 2 daughters, a wonderful son-in-law, 3 beautiful grandchildren. You like my granddaughter. And 2 great-granddaughters. And my daughter with the boy and the girl, grandchildren, live in Pennsylvania. I have fond memories of growing up here in Marion. We spent a lot of time at the lake. I love to fish. I still love to fish. And we did a lot of camping. And when I was growing up and later on with my own family, we did a lot of camping.
Sounds fun.
I was a county commissioner for 2 terms, 8 years, served 8 years after when I retired. And then I had a part-time job with an investment firm that I worked 5 years at that. And I was active in what's happened in McDowell County, served on a lot of committees, and I've had to slow down now, but I'm still just as interested in seeing McDowell County grow and as I ever have been. I never had any desire to live anywhere but McDowell County.
Ms. Epley, thank you so much for your time and willingness to participate in this program.
Well, you're welcome, and if you have any more questions, I'll be glad to answer. And if you'll come to see me sometime, we'll sit down and I'll tell you a lot of stories.